kept the land in very high fettle because you were expecting a lot from it, didn't you?
Yes, you were, of course.
You had to keep it in very high fettle and used a lot of manure. Supplies of horse manure, of course, had gone by then, but there was other manures to be had.
Now, the demand in Bath, did that change at all, the demand for your fresh produce? How were you affected by foreign produce supermarkets?
Well, the worst effects of foreign competition are the indirect ones, because the foreign competition would hit you hardest when the foreigner could send you cauliflower from southern France in the winter when you couldn't grow cauliflower. And you wouldn't be able to sell your winter cabbage and your winter sprouts so easily because there was competition from other types. And that is where the foreign competition has come from, which hurts most. The fact that you're getting competition from climates which has got the beating of you.
That's right. Seasons didn't come into it anymore.
The seasons didn't come into it to the same extent. We did develop the crisp lettuce, the iceberg lettuce. We got a very big trade for that. See, and we still had a good trade when we finished up. We had a very good name and a very good trade for this iceberg lettuce. But we were still competing price-wise in the winter with the coast of Spain, where they had climates suitable all the year round for growing that. And that is where the foreign competition has hurt us most. Not so much that they could do it.
Did you make any disastrous mistakes? Did you have any tragedies?
No, I don't think we had any tragedies in the sense. One of the greatest tragedies that I had in my life was the first year that I was on my own, which was 1928, and I'd worked hard and I got my land filled up with crops for the winter and early crops for the spring, and I had been persuaded to grow an early broccoli because in the 1920s we'd had fairly mild weather for some years, and I was persuaded to grow this early broccoli, which would come in the spring. It looked very, very well indeed, and on the Monday of February 8th, 1929, I went out in the morning and I cut the first dozen. I was delighted. And by midday it was blowing a blizzard. And that night it froze heavens hard. And from that day, the 7th to the 11th of February, in those 4 nights, everything was killed. And virtually everything I had in the garden was killed.
Oh, that was terrible for you.
It was an utter disaster.
The shortage of food after the First World War. Was the land used differently at that time to get as much out of it as possible?
The First World War was absolutely crucial. The country was virtually starving after the First World War. That was when the U-boat campaign had been so successful that the country was virtually starving. As I've said, that put me out of school and home. You see. But I'd had an instance in the spring. That spring, my father, who would be working late whenever he had a job, he came in April time, and he said to my mother, I got a bushel basket of potatoes, which I can sell. Of course, that meant big money. But what he meant was that he'd finished his potato planting and he had a basket full which he could sell. And so we went in the next morning with this basket full of potatoes. And we went along. We stopped at the first shop at the bottom of Snow Hill. I looked after the horse from the driver's seat by the driver and just stayed there quietly, kept the horse quiet. My father went into the shop, and as he went into the shop, a policeman came down the street, and he looked at the cart and he saw this bushel basket of potatoes there. And as my father walked back out, he said, "Hey, come on." He said, "Cover it up. You're not going through Bath like that." It'd been a riot if they did.
Yes, would have been.
That's what the country was like for food.
Yes.
That was at the beginning of 1918. The beginning of the summer in 1918. Desperate food.